My sister told me to stay outside during her vows until a stranger grabbed my arm and handed me an envelope saying, "Your grandmother paid me $500 to make sure you got this today." I stood there on the stone steps of St. Catherine's Cathedral, mascara running down my face, while inside those massive oak doors, my younger sister Charlotte was marrying my ex-fiancé Michael. The elderly man in a gray suit pressed the thick cream envelope into my trembling hands before disappearing into the crowd of guests arriving late. Through the stained glass windows, I could hear the organ beginning the processional. Charlotte had planned this moment perfectly. 2 months ago, she'd called a family meeting and announced her engagement to Michael, my Michael, the man I dated for 4 years. The man who'd proposed to me 18 months ago with my grandmother's engagement ring. She stood there in our parents' living room, that ring glittering on her finger, and smiled as she explained how she and Michael had found each other during my difficult period. My difficult period. That's what they called my 6-month battle with pneumonia that landed me in the hospital twice. While I fought to breathe, my sister and my fiancé fought their irresistible connection. Mom cried. Dad looked at his shoes. Charlotte announced the wedding would be in 8 weeks, and everyone was expected to attend and be happy. When I protested, Charlotte's face transformed into something ugly and triumphant. "You're just jealous because he chose me. You've always been jealous of me. Even Grandma knew you were the broken one." That last comment landed like a punch. Our grandmother Rose had died 3 years ago, leaving her estate to be divided between Charlotte and me. But Charlotte had somehow convinced our parents that Grandma had always favored her, always thought I was troubled and unstable. It wasn't true. Grandma Rose had been my champion, my confidant, the only person who truly understood me. But she was gone, and Charlotte was rewriting history. Now, standing outside my sister's wedding to my ex-fiancé, I tore open the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside was a letter in Grandma Rose's unmistakable handwriting, dated 2 weeks before her death, and a small brass key taped to the bottom of the page. "My dearest Rebecca, if you're reading this, then my suspicions about Charlotte were correct, and she's done something terrible to you. I've known for years that your sister has a cruel streak she hides from your parents. I've seen how she looks at you when she thinks no one is watching, like you're competition, like you're something to be destroyed. I'm writing this letter because I need you to know the truth about my estate. The will your parents have is a fake. Charlotte found out she was written out of my real will entirely after I caught her stealing jewelry from my bedroom and selling it. When I confronted her, she laughed in my face and said I'd be dead soon anyway. I was going to tell your parents, but I wanted to be sure first. Wanted to have proof. I had my real will sealed with my attorney, Bernard Hutchins, in Portland. The key enclosed opens a safety deposit box at First National Bank, Box 447. Inside, you'll find documentation of everything, including proof of Charlotte's thefts, forgeries, and the fake will she had drafted. You'll also find that I left my entire estate to you. The house in Newport, the investment accounts, everything. It's worth approximately $3 million. I'm sorry I won't be there to protect you myself, but I'm giving you the tools to protect yourself. Don't let Charlotte destroy you, sweetheart. You're stronger than she'll ever be, and you're about to prove it. All my love, Grandma Rose. My hands stopped shaking. Inside the cathedral, the minister was asking if anyone objected to this union. I folded the letter carefully, slipped it back into the envelope with the key, and smiled for the first time in weeks. Charlotte thought she'd won. She'd taken my fiancé, humiliated me in front of our entire family, and was inside right now, probably gloating as she said her vows. But she'd stolen from Grandma Rose. She'd forged a will. And she had no idea that our grandmother had been 10 steps ahead of her the entire time. I walked down those cathedral steps with my head high, the envelope clutched against my chest. I didn't need to interrupt their ceremony. I had something much better planned. Because in that safety deposit box wasn't just documentation of Charlotte's crimes. There was also a flash drive containing security camera footage from Grandma's house. Footage of Charlotte and Michael together in Grandma's bedroom 14 months ago. 2 months before Michael proposed to me with Grandma's ring. They hadn't just betrayed me recently. They'd been planning this for over a year. I got in my car and started driving toward Portland, a 3-hour trip that would give me plenty of time to think. Charlotte wanted to destroy me in front of everyone I loved. She wanted to take everything I had and grind my face in it. She had no idea she'd just handed me the ammunition to take everything from her instead. The drive to Portland felt surreal. I kept replaying Charlotte's face from that family meeting, the way she'd touched Michael's arm possessively, the way Mom had looked at me with pity mixed with disappointment, as if my illness had somehow driven Michael away, as if I'd failed to keep him interested. I pulled into the First National Bank parking lot just before closing time. The security guard looked surprised when I rushed in at 4:47 p.m., but the key in my hand and my grandmother's name got me escorted to the vault immediately. Box 447 was larger than I expected. Inside, I found 3 thick folders, the flash drive Grandma had mentioned, and a sealed letter addressed to Bernard Hutchins, attorney at law. The first folder contained the real will. Grandma's signature, 2 witnesses I recognized as her neighbors, dated and notarized properly. Everything to me. The house, the investments, her jewelry collection, even her car. Charlotte's name appeared exactly once. I specifically exclude my granddaughter Charlotte Marie Morrison from any inheritance due to theft and moral turpitude as documented herein. The second folder made my blood run cold. Bank statements showing Charlotte had drained $47,000 from Grandma's accounts in the 6 months before her death, using a forged power of attorney. Receipts for jewelry sold to pawn shops. Emails between Charlotte and someone named Marcus Webb discussing how to handle the old lady's assets before anyone noticed. And photos. Clear security camera images of Charlotte rifling through Grandma's desk, her bedroom, even her safe. The third folder contained the fake will Charlotte had filed with the court. A will that left everything split 50-50 between us, but named Charlotte as executor with full control over the estate until distribution. A will that gave Charlotte power to sell everything and manage the assets. I recognized the law firm on the letterhead, Whitmore and Associates, the firm where Charlotte's college roommate worked as a paralegal. But it was the flash drive that changed everything. I borrowed a laptop from a sympathetic bank manager and plugged it in. The footage was timestamped 14 months ago, November 15th. I remembered that date. I'd been visiting a college friend in Seattle for her baby shower. I'd told Michael I'd be gone for the weekend. He'd said he had to work. The video showed Michael's car pulling into Grandma's driveway at 9:17 p.m. Charlotte arrived 12 minutes later. They went inside together, and Grandma's bedroom camera caught them tearing apart her jewelry box, laughing as they tried on pieces. Michael held up Grandma's engagement ring, my ring, the one he'd proposed with 2 months later, and pretended to propose to Charlotte. They both laughed. Then the camera caught them kissing on Grandma's bed, surrounded by the jewelry they were stealing. Another file on the drive showed them 3 more times over the next month. Always when I was gone. Always stealing something. In one video, Charlotte stood in front of Grandma's mirror wearing her pearl necklace and said clearly, "Rebecca thinks she's so special. Wait until I take everything from her." Michael agrees, she's boring anyway. Always so serious, so proper. I'm more fun. Michael's response was captured perfectly. "She was good practice, I guess. But you're the real prize, Charlie. We just need to time this right. Let her grandmother die first, then we'll get what we need from the estate. Then I'll break up with Rebecca and we'll wait a few months before going public. Make it look natural." I watched myself being discussed like a business transaction, like something to be used and discarded. The timestamp showed January, right when Michael proposed to me, 2 months after this conversation. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "The ceremony was beautiful. You should have been there. Charlotte looked radiant. You're being selfish, Rebecca. This family needs healing, not your jealousy." I stared at that message and felt something inside me crystallize into diamond-hard resolve. They all thought I was the problem. The jealous older sister. The bitter ex-girlfriend. The unstable one. I called Bernard Hutchins. His secretary said he was about to leave for the day, but when I mentioned Grandma Rose's name and said I had her sealed letter, he told her to send me right over. Hutchins was 70 if he was a day, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. He read Grandma's letter, reviewed the documentation I'd brought, and his expression grew darker with each page. "Your grandmother came to me 8 months before she died. She was crying, which I'd never seen. She told me Charlotte had stolen from her, that she'd caught her, and that Charlotte had threatened her. Told Rose that if she said anything, Charlotte would claim Rose was senile and have her declared incompetent. Your grandmother was terrified. Why didn't she go to the police? She wanted to protect your parents, didn't want them to know what Charlotte had become. but she also wanted to protect you. She knew Charlotte would come after you next. He pulled out his own file. We prepared for this. The real will is registered with the state. The fake will Charlotte filed is notarized by someone whose license was suspended 3 months ago for fraud. I have a forensic document examiner's report proving the signature on the fake will isn't your grandmother's. And I have something else. He handed me a thick envelope. Rose had a private investigator follow Charlotte for 2 months before she died. This is his complete report. Inside were photos of Charlotte meeting with Marcus Webb, who turned out to be a disbarred attorney with a history of estate fraud. Photos of her accessing Grandma's bank accounts. Photos of her and Michael together, months before they claimed their relationship started. And a detailed financial analysis showing that Charlotte had been living well beyond her means for 2 years, funding her lifestyle by stealing from Grandma and running up credit cards she couldn't pay. Your grandmother wanted you to have options, Hutchins said. You can file criminal charges for theft, fraud, and forgery. You can contest the fake will and have Charlotte removed as executor. You can sue her for the money she stole. Or you can do all of it at once. I thought about Charlotte in her white dress, holding Michael's hand, thinking she'd won, thinking I was outside crying while she triumphed. I want to do all of it, I said. But not yet. I need you to prepare everything, have it ready to file, but wait for my signal. Hutchins smiled slowly. Your grandmother said you were the smart one. What are you planning? Charlotte's getting married today. That means in 2 weeks she and Michael will go on their honeymoon to Bali. She told everyone about it at the engagement party. 14 days at some luxury resort, all paid for with her executor fees from Grandma's estate. I pulled out my phone and showed him Charlotte's social media, where she'd posted 19 times about the upcoming trip. She's been skimming money from the estate account for months to pay for it. I have the bank statements to prove it. That's embezzlement. I know. And while she's in Bali, posting photos and celebrating her perfect life, I want you to file everything. The criminal charges, the will contest, the lawsuit, everything. I want her to come home to a police warrant, a frozen estate account, and the knowledge that her marriage to Michael started with theft and fraud. I want the evidence sent to every family member, every friend who attended that wedding. I want everyone who watched her humiliate me to know exactly what she is. Hutchins was quiet for a moment. That's not revenge, Rebecca. That's justice. No, I said, standing up and gathering the files. Justice is what the court will give her. What I'm giving her is the same thing she gave me. Public humiliation, betrayal, and the loss of everything she thought she'd won. The difference is, she actually deserves it. I left his office with copies of everything, the real will, and a plan that made my grandmother's ring on Charlotte's finger feel like a time bomb she didn't know she was wearing. She'd stolen that ring from a dead woman and put it on while marrying the man she'd stolen from me. In 2 weeks, everyone would know it. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom. Charlotte wants to know if you'll come to the reception dinner tomorrow. She says she forgives you for making a scene. I typed back, tell Charlotte I wouldn't miss it for the world. Because tomorrow night I was going to smile and congratulate my sister. I was going to hug Michael and wish them happiness. I was going to be so gracious, so mature, so forgiving that everyone would feel guilty for doubting me. And then I was going to watch their honeymoon photos from Bali while the police knocked on their door with an arrest warrant. The reception dinner was held at Riverside Manor, the same venue where Charlotte had her engagement party. I arrived in a deep blue dress, hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless. I'd spent an hour getting ready, making sure I looked confident and successful, not like the broken woman they all expected. The moment I walked in, conversation stopped. Mom rushed over, her face a mixture of relief and anxiety. Rebecca, sweetheart, I'm so glad you came. Charlotte will be thrilled. She really does want to move past this. Move past this. As if she'd accidentally stepped on my foot instead of systematically destroying my life. Charlotte and Michael sat at the head table like royalty, surrounded by bridesmaids and groomsmen still wearing their wedding attire. When Charlotte saw me, her smile was pure venom disguised as magnanimity. She stood up and walked over, arms outstretched. Becca, you came. I was worried you'd still be upset. I let her hug me, feeling her body tense with surprise when I returned it warmly. Of course I came. You're my sister. I want you to be happy. The confusion in her eyes was delicious. She'd expected tears, drama, an emotional breakdown she could use to paint me as unstable. Instead, I was calm, collected, and gracious. It threw her completely off balance. "I'm sorry about the ceremony," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I just thought it might be too emotional for you, being there for the vows. You understand, right?" "Absolutely. It was probably for the best." I smiled at Michael, who looked distinctly uncomfortable. "Congratulations, Michael. I hope you two are very happy together." He mumbled something that might have been thanks. His hand found Charlotte's, and I noticed how tightly he gripped it. Nervous. Dad appeared beside me, his expression carefully neutral. "Let's get you a drink, Becca. Come on." At the bar, he ordered me a wine and himself a whiskey. "You're handling this well. Better than I expected." "Grandma Rose taught me grace under pressure," I said, watching his face carefully. He flinched at her name. "Your grandmother would have wanted you here tonight," he said quietly. "She always believed in family staying together." I sipped my wine and said nothing. Dad didn't know about the real will, the theft, the evidence sitting in Bernard Hutchins' office. None of them knew. Charlotte had played them all perfectly, and they'd believed her version of everything. That Grandma had loved both of us equally, that Michael and Charlotte had fallen in love organically after my relationship ended, that I was just bitter and jealous. Dinner was excruciating. Charlotte spent the entire meal making little comments designed to wound. Michael and I were saying how nice it'll be to host Thanksgiving at Grandma's house this year. "Since I'm managing the estate, I'm keeping it in the family. I know you probably wanted to buy it, Becca, but it's better this way. More people can enjoy it." I smiled serenely. "That sounds lovely. And we're thinking of turning Grandma's bedroom into a master suite. Fresh start, you know. Can't live in the past." She watched me carefully, waiting for the pain to show. "Renovations sound expensive. Are you sure the estate can handle it?" Charlotte's smile tightened. "Oh, I'm managing the funds very carefully. Very carefully." I bet she was. Right into her personal accounts to fund her lifestyle. Michael kept drinking, growing more talkative and less guarded with each glass. "You know what, Becca? I always thought you were too serious, too focused on doing everything right. Charlotte knows how to have fun. Life's too short to be so rigid all the time." "You're absolutely right," I said, meeting his eyes. "I've learned a lot about who people really are. It's been very educational." Something in my tone made him pause, but Charlotte jumped in. "See? This is why I knew we could all get past this. Becca's being so mature about everything." An aunt I barely knew approached our table, champagne in hand. "Charlotte, dear, I have to ask, is that Rose's engagement ring? I'd recognize it anywhere." Charlotte's face lit up. "It is. Michael proposed with it. Isn't it perfect? It's like Grandma knew we were meant to be together." "How did Michael get the ring?" the aunt asked, her voice carrying interest rather than suspicion. Michael jumped in smoothly. "Rose gave it to me before she passed. She told me she wanted it to stay in the family, with someone who'd treasure it. She said Charlotte had always been her favorite, that she knew Charlotte would appreciate the family history." My fingers tightened on my wine glass, but I kept my expression neutral. Grandma had never given him anything. They'd stolen that ring from her jewelry box, filmed on the security footage currently sitting in Bernard Hutchins' safe. "How special," I murmured. Grandma always did have a way of knowing who deserved her treasures. Charlotte shot me a sharp look, but I was already standing, excusing myself to the restroom. I needed air, space, a moment away from their celebration built on lies and theft. In the marble bathroom, I splashed water on my wrists and stared at my reflection. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, they'd be in Bali, posting sunset photos and couple selfies, thinking they'd gotten away with everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Bernard Hutchins. "Everything is prepared, documents ready to file on your word." Also found something interesting in the PI report. Charlotte has been using estate funds to pay off her credit cards. Total amount embezzled is now $63. $0. Thought you should know. $63,000. She'd stolen nearly twice what I'd originally thought, all while playing the gracious estate executor, all while telling our parents she was protecting Grandma's legacy. I texted back, "Wait until they land in Bali. Give them 2 days to settle in and start posting photos. Then file everything at once." His response was immediate. "Consider it done. Your grandmother would be proud." I returned to the reception just as Charlotte was cutting the cake, a massive 5-tier confection decorated with sugar flowers. She fed Michael a piece, laughing as frosting smeared on his nose. Everyone applauded. Cameras flashed. Mom caught my arm as I passed. "Are you okay, sweetheart? Really okay?" "I'm better than okay, Mom. I promise. I'm exactly where I need to be." She looked relieved, squeezing my hand. "I'm proud of you for being here, for supporting your sister despite everything. That takes real strength." The irony nearly choked me, but I just smiled. The evening wound down around 11. Charlotte found me near the exit, her veil slightly crooked from champagne and dancing. "Thank you for coming tonight, Becca, and for being cool about everything. I know it's been hard for you, losing Michael and dealing with Grandma's death and being sick. But you'll find someone eventually. Someone more your speed." I looked at my little sister, at the triumph in her eyes, at the ring she thought she'd earned on her finger. "I hope you have a wonderful honeymoon, Charlotte. You've worked so hard for this. You deserve everything that's coming to you." She beamed, missing the double meaning entirely. "Bali is going to be amazing. 2 weeks of pure paradise. And when we get back, we're going to start our real life together. Maybe even start a family soon. Wouldn't that be wonderful? You could be Aunt Becca." "That sounds perfect," I said, hugging her one last time. Absolutely perfect. As I drove home that night, I thought about Grandma Rose's letter, about her final words to me. "Don't let Charlotte destroy you, sweetheart. You're stronger than she'll ever be, and you're about to prove it." Charlotte thought she'd destroyed me. She'd taken my fiancé, humiliated me publicly, stolen my grandmother's ring, and embezzled money meant to be mine. She'd spent months painting me as unstable and jealous while she played the victim. In 2 weeks, she was going to learn what destruction actually looked like. Their Bali photos started appearing on social media exactly on schedule. Charlotte in a bikini on a pristine beach, cocktail in hand. Michael with his arm around her at a temple, both of them glowing with newlywed bliss. Sunset dinner on the water, couples massage at a luxury spa. Every post dripped with "had you're blessed and had to living my best life." I watched each one carefully, waiting. On day 2 of their honeymoon, Charlotte posted a particularly grating photo of her hand with Grandma's ring catching the tropical sunlight, captioned, "Wearing my grandmother's ring in paradise. She's definitely smiling down on us." That afternoon, I texted Bernard Hutchins, now. Within an hour, he'd filed everything: the criminal complaint for theft, fraud, and embezzlement, the will contest with the forensic evidence proving forgery, the civil lawsuit for the $63,000 Charlotte had stolen, and a motion to freeze all estate accounts immediately. He'd also sent certified letters to my parents, key family members, and everyone who'd been at that wedding, containing a detailed summary of the evidence and copies of the most damning documents. He also sent the security footage to the district attorney's office with a formal criminal referral. Then we waited. The explosion happened faster than I'd anticipated. Mom called first at 2:47 a.m. her time, early afternoon in Bali. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Rebecca, please tell me this isn't real. Please tell me there's been some mistake." "There's no mistake, Mom. Charlotte stole from Grandma for months. She forged the will. She and Michael were together while I was still engaged to him. It's all documented." "But the police, they came to the house, Rebecca. They had a warrant for Charlotte's arrest. They searched her room. They took her computer, her files, everything. The neighbors saw. Everyone saw." "I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "Sorry? You did this. You're having your own sister arrested." "I didn't forge documents or steal $63,000, Mom. Charlotte did that herself. I just made sure she had to face the consequences." The line went quiet except for her ragged breathing. "Your father is getting on a plane to Bali. We have to warn her before she comes home." "She already knows," I said calmly. "The Indonesian police were contacted per international treaty. She's being informed right now that she has an outstanding warrant in the US and that her passport will be flagged if she tries to flee to a non-extradition country. She can finish her honeymoon, but the moment she lands in Portland, she'll be arrested. Mom made a sound like a wounded animal and hung up. My phone exploded after that. Angry texts from relatives, friends of Charlotte, people who'd watched me stand outside that cathedral and thought I was the broken one. But sprinkled among them were other messages. From aunts and uncles who'd always thought something was off about Charlotte's story. From Grandma's friends who'd wondered about the missing jewelry. From people who'd loaned Charlotte money she never repaid. And from Michael's mother, shockingly. I always knew you were too good for my son. I saw the security footage the DA's office sent over. I'm so sorry, Rebecca. For everything. The next morning, Charlotte called from Bali. Her voice was pure ice. What did you do? I filed the truth with the court, that's all. You vindictive bitch. You're having me arrested because you can't handle that Michael chose me. No, I'm having you arrested because you stole from our dying grandmother and forged legal documents. Michael is just the pathetic bonus. That will was real. Grandma wanted me to have. The notary who signed it lost her license for fraud 3 months before Grandma died. The signature analysis proves it's forged. And the security footage of you and Michael stealing from her jewelry box is time-stamped and authenticated. You didn't just betray me, Charlotte. You betrayed a woman who loved you, and you did it while she was dying. Silence. Then, Mom and Dad will never forgive you. They'll forgive me when they realize you've been lying to them for years. When they see the evidence. When they understand that Grandma tried to protect me from you because she knew exactly what you are. You've ruined my life. No, I said, my voice perfectly calm. I've exposed it. There's a difference. Enjoy the rest of your honeymoon, Charlotte. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department will be waiting for you at PDX with an arrest warrant when you land. She was screaming when I hung up. Bernard Hutchins called an hour later. The judge reviewed the evidence and granted our emergency motion. The estate accounts are frozen, Charlotte is removed as executor, and you've been appointed temporary administrator pending the criminal proceedings. Also, the DA is very interested in Marcus Webb. Turns out he's been running this same scam with multiple families. Charlotte might be facing charges as part of a larger conspiracy. What about Michael? He's named in the civil suit for theft of your grandmother's ring and jewelry. Since he was on camera stealing items valued over $10,000, he's looking at felony charges too. The DA hasn't decided whether to charge him separately or as an accomplice to Charlotte's crimes. I thought about Michael at that reception dinner, smug and drunk, telling me I was too serious. Thought about him trying on Grandma's ring like it was a toy, proposing to Charlotte as a joke while they robbed a dying woman. Charge him separately, I said. He deserves his own consequences. Consider it done. Over the next few days, I watched Charlotte's social media transform from paradise photos to desperate damage control. She posted a long statement claiming she was being persecuted by a jealous sibling and that the truth would come out in court. She claimed the evidence was fabricated, that I'd somehow manufactured security footage and forged documents. The comments section was brutal. Saw the police at your parents' house, looked pretty real. My mom was friends with your grandma. She says you stole jewelry right from Rose's bedroom. There's literally video of you and Michael stealing. Multiple videos. What part of that is fake? Within 24 hours, Charlotte's post was deleted. Her Instagram went private. Michael's accounts disappeared entirely. Dad called on day 5 of their honeymoon. His voice was hollow. I saw the footage, the will analysis, everything. I'm sorry, Dad. No, I'm sorry. We didn't believe you when you said Charlotte was cruel to you growing up. We thought you were exaggerating, being dramatic. Your mother and I, we wanted to believe the best of both our daughters. He paused, and I heard him crying. Rose tried to tell me. 2 months before she died, she said Charlotte had been stealing from her. I told her she was confused, that Charlotte would never do that. I made my own mother doubt herself because I couldn't accept the truth about my daughter. You didn't know, Dad. I should have known. And now Charlotte has destroyed herself. Her marriage is starting with criminal charges and our family is broken. All because we didn't listen. Charlotte destroyed herself, I said firmly. She made every choice that led to this moment. You didn't forge that will. You didn't steal $63,000. You didn't betray someone who loved you. She did all of that. What happens now? Now she comes home and faces justice, and I take over Grandma's estate like she intended. The line was quiet for a long moment. Your grandmother was right about you. You are the strong one. Charlotte and Michael's flight landed at PDX on a gray Tuesday morning. I wasn't there to see them arrested, but Bernard Hutchins attended and sent me photos. Charlotte in handcuffs, her face blotchy from crying, still wearing her Bali tan and her honeymoon clothes. Michael beside her, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. The ring on Charlotte's finger catching the airport fluorescent lights as the deputies read them their rights. The local news picked up the story. Newlyweds arrested on honeymoon return, charged with elder fraud and theft. It was better than I'd imagined. The courthouse on the day of Charlotte's arraignment was packed with press, family members, and curious onlookers drawn by the scandal. I sat in the back row wearing a charcoal suit, my hair pulled into a neat bun, every inch the composed granddaughter seeking justice for a woman who could no longer speak for herself. Charlotte entered in an orange jumpsuit, her honeymoon glow completely gone. She'd lost weight in just the 2 weeks since her arrest. Her hair hung limp, and the confidence she'd worn like armor at her wedding had crumbled into something desperate and angry. When she saw me, pure hatred flashed across her face. The prosecutor laid out the charges methodically. $73,000 in documented theft, $10,000 more than we'd initially calculated, discovered through deeper forensic accounting, forgery of legal documents, wire fraud, conspiracy with Marcus Webb, who'd already taken a plea deal and agreed to testify against her, and a new charge that made the courtroom gasp, attempted theft of an estate valued at $3.2 million. Charlotte's attorney, a public defender who looked barely out of law school, tried to argue for bail. Your Honor, my client has deep family ties to the community, no prior criminal record, and your client fled to Indonesia immediately after committing these crimes. The judge interrupted, an older woman with steel gray hair and no patience for nonsense. She was informed of the warrant while out of the country and chose to remain there for 5 additional days before returning. That demonstrates consciousness of guilt and flight risk. Bail is denied. Charlotte's face crumpled. Mom, sitting across the aisle from me, made a choked sound and reached for Dad's hand. He didn't take it. He just stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Michael's arraignment was immediately after. His charges were lighter: felony theft for the jewelry, receiving stolen property, and conspiracy. But his attorney made it clear they planned to argue he'd been manipulated by Charlotte, that she was the mastermind. The prosecutor shot that down immediately. The security footage shows Mr. Patterson actively participating in multiple thefts. He's heard on camera discussing how to time the fraud to maximize their financial gain. He proposed to the victim's other granddaughter with a stolen ring while still planning to betray her. This wasn't manipulation. This was calculated, premeditated theft from a dying woman. Michael's bail was set at $50,000. His parents posted it within hours. He walked free while Charlotte remained in custody, and that imbalance seemed to crystallize something in my sister. She'd been willing to sacrifice everything for Michael, and he'd let his parents buy his freedom while she stayed behind bars. The will contest hearing was 2 weeks later. Bernard Hutchins presented our case with surgical precision. The forensic document examiner testified that the will Charlotte had filed was forged, signed by a notary whose license had been suspended, and contained signatures that didn't match any of Grandma Rose's authenticated documents. Charlotte's attorney tried to argue that Grandma had been mentally incompetent when she wrote the real will, that she'd been manipulated into cutting Charlotte out. But then Hutchins called Dr. Sarah Chen, Grandma's physician for 30 years. Rose Morrison was sharp as a tack until the day she died, Dr. Chen testified. I saw her 2 weeks before her passing for a routine checkup. She was weak physically, yes, but mentally she was completely competent. She actually discussed her estate planning with me, told me she'd had to make difficult decisions about her granddaughters. She said one had stolen from her and threatened her, and she needed to protect the other one. Did she say which granddaughter had stolen from her? Hutchins asked. Charlotte. She said Charlotte by name. She was very distressed about it. The judge's ruling was swift. The fake will was thrown out, the real will was validated, and I was officially confirmed as sole heir to Grandma Rose's entire estate. Charlotte was ordered to return every penny she'd taken, plus interest and damages. The total came to $97,000 once attorney fees and estate damages were calculated. She'd have to pay it from prison wages if necessary. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave a brief statement. My grandmother was a kind, generous woman who was betrayed by someone she loved. Today's ruling ensures her actual wishes are honored and that her legacy isn't stolen by the person who hurt her most. Justice has been served. Mom approached me in the parking lot, her face haggard. She'd aged 10 years in the past month. Are you happy now, Rebecca? Your sister is in jail. Your family is destroyed. Are you satisfied? I didn't put Charlotte in jail, Mom. Her choices did that. You could have handled this privately. You didn't have to go to the police. Didn't have to make it public. Didn't have to humiliate us all. The way Charlotte handled stealing my fiancé, by announcing it at a family meeting and forcing everyone to celebrate, the way she handled my grief by making me stand outside her wedding. She wanted public humiliation, Mom. She just didn't expect to be on the receiving end. Dad appeared behind her, putting a hand on her shoulder. Let it go, Karen. Rebecca's right. Charlotte did this to herself. Mom whirled on him. How can you say that? She's our daughter. So is Rebecca. The force of his words stopped her cold. Rebecca, who we didn't believe when she said Charlotte was cruel. Rebecca, who we pressured to attend a wedding to her own ex-fiancé. Rebecca, who stood outside a church while her sister married the man who betrayed her, and we all acted like she was the problem. His voice cracked. Charlotte stole from my mother while she was dying. She forged legal documents. She's been lying to us for years. When do we start holding her accountable? Mom had no answer. She just walked away, got in her car, and drove off without looking back. Dad and I stood in the courthouse parking lot, the fall wind picking up leaves around our feet. I don't know if your mother will ever forgive you, he said quietly. She can't accept what Charlotte is. I know, but I can't keep protecting Charlotte from consequences just to keep the peace. Grandma tried that, and it got her stolen from and threatened. Rose would be proud of you. She really would. He hugged me then, the first real embrace we'd shared in months. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I'm sorry we didn't protect you. You see it now. That's what matters. The criminal trial was set for 4 months later. Charlotte's attorney tried every delay tactic possible, but the evidence was overwhelming. Security footage, forensic accounting, witness testimony from Marcus Webb, the forged will, email correspondence about the fraud. There was no defending against it. In the end, Charlotte took a plea deal. 7 years in prison for elder fraud, forgery, and theft. With good behavior, she'd serve 5. Michael took a separate deal. 3 years probation, restitution for the stolen jewelry, and a felony conviction that would follow him forever. The ring, Grandma's ring, was returned to me as part of the restitution. I held it in my hands for a long time, remembering the security footage of Michael proposing to Charlotte with it as a joke. Remembering it on Charlotte's finger at her wedding, at that reception dinner, in those Bali photos. I took it to a jeweler and had it completely redesigned. The diamonds were reset into a pendant I could wear close to my heart, but the ring itself was gone. Transformed into something new, something that carried Grandma's love but none of the taint of what Charlotte and Michael had done to it. The house in Newport became mine officially 6 months after the trial. I spent a weekend there walking through rooms full of memories. Grandma's bedroom where Charlotte and Michael had stolen from her, the kitchen where she'd taught me to bake, the garden she'd loved. I found a box in her closet, tucked away behind shoe boxes and winter coats. Inside were letters, dozens of them, written to me but never sent, all dated from the last year of her life. Dearest Rebecca, Charlotte came by today and asked for money. When I said no, she took the pearl earrings your grandfather gave me for our anniversary. She thought I didn't see, but I did. I don't know what happened to my sweet granddaughter, the little girl who used to bring me dandelions from the yard. Something in her broke, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm writing this will change to protect you, darling, because if she's willing to steal from me, she'll destroy you if given the chance. And I can't let that happen. Another letter dated 2 weeks before she died. Rebecca, my love, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. and Charlotte has done something terrible to you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better while I was alive. I'm sorry I didn't tell your parents the truth. I tried, but they didn't want to believe their daughter could be cruel. But you, sweetheart, you have my strength. You have my spine. Don't let her break you. Don't let her win. Fight back with everything you have and don't feel guilty about it. Some people need to face consequences before they can change, and some people never change at all. I'm betting on you, Rebecca. Always. I sat on Grandma's bed, reading her letters, and cried for the first time since this whole nightmare began. Not for Charlotte, not for Michael, not even for my fractured family, but for Grandma, who'd seen the truth and tried to protect me even after death, who'd known exactly what Charlotte was capable of and had given me the tools to defend myself. 2 years later, I still lived in that house. I'd renovated it, updated it, made it mine while keeping the essence of what Grandma had built. The garden flourished under my care. The investment accounts she'd left me had grown substantially, managed by a trustworthy advisor who'd known Grandma for decades. Charlotte was in her 3rd year of prison. We didn't speak. Mom visited her regularly and sent me photos I never asked for. Charlotte in prison blue, thinner, older, harder. Mom's emails always included little gilts about how she's learned her lesson and family should forgive. I never responded. Dad and I had coffee every Sunday. He'd divorced Mom 8 months after the trial, unable to reconcile her continued defense of Charlotte's actions. He lived in Portland now, working for a nonprofit. Life's too short to pretend evil isn't evil just because it shares your DNA, he'd told me when he announced the separation. Michael's probation officer contacted me once to ask if he'd tried to reach me. He hadn't. Apparently, he'd gotten engaged again, to a woman who had no idea about his past. I provided his probation officer with his new fiancé's contact information and copies of the court records. She deserved to know who she was marrying. The engagement was called off 2 weeks later. And me? I was finally living the life Grandma had wanted for me. I'd gone back to school, finished my master's degree, started a consulting business that actually thrived. I dated carefully, slowly, learning to trust again. I had friends who knew the whole story and stood by me. I had peace. Grandma's pendant hung around my neck every day, the diamonds catching light like little stars. A reminder that justice doesn't always come immediately, but it comes. That standing up for yourself isn't cruelty, it's survival. Charlotte had wanted to destroy me, to take everything I had and grind my face in it. Instead, she'd destroyed herself. And I'd taken back everything she'd stolen, plus interest. That wasn't revenge. That was restoration. 3 years after Charlotte's imprisonment, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Please read this, Charlotte." I almost deleted it without opening, but curiosity won. "Rebecca, I know you don't want to hear from me. Mom says you never respond to anything about me, that you've completely cut me out of your life. I get it. I understand why. I'm not writing to apologize or beg for forgiveness. I know you'll never forgive me. And honestly, I'm not sure I deserve it. I'm writing because my therapist here says I need to take accountability, and I've spent 3 years avoiding the truth. I destroyed you because I was jealous. I've been jealous of you our entire lives. You were smarter, more together, more loved by Grandma. Everyone always compared us, and I always came up short. When Michael started dating you, I saw how he looked at you, like you were something precious. No one had ever looked at me that way. So I decided to take him from you. And when that wasn't enough, I decided to take everything else too. Grandma's money, her house, her love. I wanted to prove I could have what you had, that I could be better than you. But I wasn't better. I was just vindictive and cruel. And you destroyed me for it. I'll get out in 2 years. Mom thinks we can reconcile then, that enough time will have passed. But I know better. You won the war, Rebecca. You obliterated me so completely that I'll never recover. My marriage is over. Michael divorced me 6 months into my sentence. I have a felony record. No career, no money, no future. You took everything from me, just like I tried to take everything from you. The difference is, I deserved it. I hope you're happy with Grandma's house and her money and her memory. I hope every time you wear her jewelry, you think about how completely you destroyed me, because that's your victory, isn't it? That's what you wanted. Charlotte. I read the email 3 times, searching for genuine remorse, for real accountability. All I found was self-pity disguised as reflection. Even in her acknowledgement of wrongdoing, Charlotte made herself the victim. I destroyed her. I took everything from her. As if her own actions, the theft, the fraud, the years of cruelty, had nothing to do with her current situation. I deleted the email without responding. 2 weeks later, Mom called. I'd been ignoring her calls for months, but something made me answer. Rebecca, please, just listen for 1 minute. Her voice was raspy, exhausted. Charlotte wrote to you. Did you read it? I did. And? Don't you have anything to say to her? Any compassion at all? No, Mom, I don't. She's your sister. She made mistakes, but she's paid for them. 3 years in prison, Rebecca. 3 years. When is it enough for you? When did you start asking Charlotte that question? I countered. When was her cruelty enough? When was stealing from Grandma enough? When was publicly humiliating me at her wedding enough? You never asked her when she'd had enough. You only ask me when I'll stop holding her accountable. That's different. It's not different. It's exactly the same. Charlotte spent years hurting me, hurting Grandma, lying to everyone, and you all made excuses for her. The moment I held her accountable, suddenly I'm the villain. Well, I'm done being the villain in Charlotte's victim story. She chose her path. She's living with the consequences. She's trying to change. Then she can change in prison, and she can build whatever life comes after with whoever is willing to give her a chance. But it won't be me, and it won't involve Grandma's legacy. That's not cruelty, Mom. That's a boundary. Learn the difference. I hung up before she could respond. Dad called the next day. Your mother's upset. I know. She thinks I should forgive Charlotte. Should you? His tone was genuinely curious, not judgmental. Would you forgive someone who stole from your dying mother, forged her will, stole your fiancé, humiliated you publicly, and only expressed remorse when facing prison time? Long silence. No, I don't think I would. Then you understand why I won't. Charlotte's letter has been making the rounds in the family. Some people think you should show mercy. Those people can show her all the mercy they want. They can write to her, visit her, give her money when she gets out. I won't stop them. But they don't get to decide my boundaries. Fair enough. He paused. For what it's worth, I think Rose would be proud of how you've handled this. You didn't become cruel like Charlotte. You didn't seek revenge beyond what the courts decided. You just protected yourself and what Rose left you. That took strength. After we hung up, I walked through Grandma's house, my house now. The renovations were complete. Her bedroom was now a library, lined with books and comfortable chairs, a space for reading and peace. The kitchen had been updated but kept its warmth. The garden flourished, expanded with new flowers Grandma would have loved. I'd made this house mine while honoring her memory, not by preserving it exactly as she'd left it, but by living fully in it, growing in it, thriving in it. That's what she'd wanted. Not a museum to her past, but a foundation for my future. Charlotte wanted me to feel guilty for destroying her. She wanted me to carry the weight of her consequences as if I'd forced her to commit fraud, to steal, to betray. As if I'd held a gun to her head and made her choose cruelty. But I didn't destroy Charlotte. She destroyed herself, piece by piece, decision by decision, lie by lie. I just made sure she couldn't destroy me in the process. 5 years after the trial, I was at a coffee shop in Portland when I saw Michael. He looked smaller somehow, older, tired. He was with a woman, not the fiancé I'd warned away, someone new. They were arguing in hushed voices near the counter. He saw me and froze. The woman noticed, followed his gaze, and saw me watching. Something clicked in her expression. She grabbed her purse and walked out, leaving Michael standing there alone. He approached my table slowly, like someone approaching a wild animal. Rebecca. Hi. Michael. I've wanted to reach out, to apologize. For everything. Have you? I sipped my coffee calmly. Yes, what I did to you, what Charlotte and I did, it was unforgivable. I was selfish and cruel, and you didn't deserve any of it. You're right, I didn't. He waited for more, for absolution, for some sign that his apology meant something. When I offered nothing, he shifted uncomfortably. Are you doing okay? I'm doing very well, actually. I live in my grandmother's house. I run a successful consulting business. I have a fulfilling life. You? His face tightened. It's been hard. The felony conviction makes employment difficult. Relationships are complicated when you have to explain what happened. Charlotte won't speak to me. Your family won't speak to me. I'm pretty much starting over from nothing. That sounds difficult. Is that all you have to say? Anger crept into his voice. I apologized. I admitted I was wrong. You can't even what, Michael? Forgive you? Make you feel better about destroying someone who loved you? You want my forgiveness because it would ease your guilt, not because you actually care about the harm you caused. You want me to tell you you're not a bad person, so you can move on without carrying the weight of what you did. But I don't owe you that comfort. I served my time. I paid restitution. What more do you want? Nothing. I want nothing from you. You paid your legal debt. That doesn't mean I have to give you emotional closure. He stared at me for a long moment, then shook his head. Charlotte was right about you. You're cold. No, Michael. I'm just not interested in making my abusers feel better about abusing me. There's a difference. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an actual life to get back to. I left him standing there, and I felt lighter for it. Charlotte was released 2 years later, after serving 5 years of her 7-year sentence. I heard about it from Dad, who'd remained carefully neutral in all family matters. Your mother picked her up. She's living with her for now. Good for her. Charlotte wants to reach out. She can want whatever she wants. It doesn't mean she gets it. Charlotte tried anyway. Letters sent to my business address, emails to my professional account, a Facebook message request that sat unread. Each one was blocked, deleted, ignored. Then she showed up at the house. My house. Grandma's house. I was in the garden when I heard the doorbell. Through the window, I saw her standing on the porch, thinner than in her prison photos, hair cut short, wearing clothes that didn't quite fit. She looked nervous and determined. I didn't answer the door. She rang again, knocked, called out, Rebecca, I know you're there. Please, 5 minutes. That's all I ask. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What do you want, Charlotte? I want to apologize. Really apologize, not the bullshit letter I sent years ago. I've had 5 years to think about what I did, who I was. I destroyed your life because I was jealous and selfish, and you had every right to hold me accountable. Okay. She blinked, thrown by my lack of reaction. Okay, that's it? What else do you want me to say? Thank you for the apology you should have made 7 years ago. Congratulations on basic human decency. I don't know what I want. Forgiveness, maybe. A chance to rebuild something between us. No. Rebecca, please. No, Charlotte. You don't get to steal from our dying grandmother, forge legal documents, humiliate me publicly, destroy my engagement, take my fiancé, and then come back 5 years later expecting sisterhood. You burned that bridge. You poured gasoline on it and danced while it burned. There's nothing left to rebuild. I was sick back then. I had issues, mental health stuff I wasn't dealing with. Stop. Don't blame mental illness for calculated, premeditated cruelty. You knew exactly what you were doing. The security footage proved it. You weren't sick, Charlotte. You were mean, and you only regret it now because you faced consequences. Tears filled her eyes. I can't change the past, but I can try to be better. Doesn't that mean anything? It means you should be better for yourself and whoever else is in your life. But it doesn't obligate me to be part of that life. Be better, Charlotte. Build something new. Find people who don't know what you were and show them who you're trying to become. But leave me out of it. Mom said you'd be like this. Unforgiving. Cold. Mom enabled you for years and couldn't see what you really were until the police showed her evidence. I don't particularly value her opinion on my boundaries. I started to close the door. Don't come back here, Charlotte. This house, this life, it's not yours. It never was. Grandma would want us to reconcile, she said desperately. I paused, hand on the doorframe. Grandma spent the last months of her life documenting your crimes because she knew you'd try to destroy me. She changed her will specifically to cut you out. She hired a PI to follow you. She left me detailed instructions on how to protect myself from you. Grandma knew exactly who you were, and her final act was making sure you couldn't hurt me. Don't invoke her name to manipulate me. She saw through you long before I did. I closed the door. Through the glass, I watched Charlotte stand there for a long moment before finally walking away. She looked back once, but I'd already turned to go back to my garden. Mom called an hour later. Charlotte came to see you. She did. She said you were cruel to her. I was honest with her. If she experiences that as cruelty, that's her problem. Rebecca Ann Morrison, that is your sister. She served her time. She's trying to make amends. The least you can do is meet her halfway. No, Mom. The least I can do is exactly what I did. Listen to her apology and then tell her I'm not interested in reconciliation. I don't owe her a relationship just because we share DNA. She destroyed any claim to my time, energy, or compassion years ago. When did you become so hard? When did you start thinking boundaries were hardness? I'm not hard, Mom. I'm just done being soft for people who mistake kindness for weakness and keep hurting me. She hung up without saying goodbye. 10 years after the trial, I threw a garden party at the house. Dad was there with his new partner, a kind woman named Janet, who taught elementary school. Friends from my consulting business mingled with neighbors and Grandma's old friends who'd become my friends. The garden was in full bloom, a riot of colors Grandma would have adored. Dad pulled me aside near the rose bushes. Your grandmother would love seeing you like this. Happy, thriving, free. I wish she could have seen it. She did, in a way. She knew you'd end up here. That's why she fought so hard to protect it for you. He hugged me tightly. I'm sorry it took me so long to see what Charlotte was. I'm sorry we didn't protect you sooner. You're here now. That's what matters. Charlotte asked about you last week. Your mother showed her photos from your social media, the business features, the awards, this house. She cried for an hour. And you're telling me this because I want you to know that you won, Rebecca. Completely and totally. You're living the life she tried to steal, thriving in the space she tried to take, wearing success she tried to destroy you to achieve. That's not cruelty. That's justice. He was right. I had won. Not because I'd destroyed Charlotte. She'd done that herself. But because I'd refused to let her destruction of me succeed. I'd taken Grandma's gift, her protection, her love, and built something beautiful from it. Charlotte was out there somewhere, rebuilding from nothing with a felony record and a reputation she'd earned. Michael was doing the same. Mom had chosen to stand by Charlotte and lost her marriage and most of her family relationships in the process. And me? I was here, in Grandma's garden, surrounded by people who loved me, living a life of integrity and peace. Wearing Grandma's diamonds around my neck, transformed and new, but still carrying her love. That was the real victory. Not that Charlotte had fallen, but that I'd risen. Not that she'd lost everything, but that I'd kept everything that mattered. Grandma had written in one of her letters, "Don't let her break you. Don't let her win." I hadn't, and I never would. The party continued as the sun set, golden light filtering through the trees Grandma had planted decades ago. Laughter echoed through rooms where cruelty had once lived but existed no more. And somewhere in the evening breeze, I could almost hear Grandma's voice. "Well done, sweetheart. Well done."